Hi, I'm Dave Barnes.
And I'm John McLaughlin.
And welcome to Dadville.
Dadville is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of awesome dadding.
It's funny thoughts and deep talks.
So please, enjoy your time here in Dadville and enjoy this episode with Sissy Goff and David Thomas, the mayor and governor.
That's not a reindeer. That's what he said. No joke.
I know, my dad's crazy.
Anyway, John, the holiday season is starting.
Oh,
and you know
so
what that
excited.
means. You know what it means. It's easy to fall off my daily routine this time of year.
Yeah. Look, you get hung up on this every year, David. But listen, that's why we relied on drinking AG1 for so many years, especially around the holidays. Mm-hmm. And right now, Dave, AG1 is running a special Black Friday offer for all of November.
Hey, can I tell you something, John? AG1 is a daily health drink packed with nutrients to help alleviate bloating, support sustained energy, and whole body health.
Yeah.
I can't live without AG1 because of how it helps me recover from workouts, tons of workouts that I do every day. I mean, I really can't tell you how many, like in the double digits. Sure. And it gives me a boost of energy every day, John.
Well, listen, Dave, I love it because I can bring the AG1 travel packs with me during the holiday season because you never know where the holiday season is going to be.
so many places.
So many places. Right? I can bring them with me no matter where I go or what decadent, delicious baked holiday treat I might find myself eating a dozen times or so in little slivers.
just slowly but surely. So this holiday season, try AG1 for yourself or even gift it to someone special. It's the perfect time to focus on supporting your body with an easy and surprisingly delicious daily health drink. And that's why we've been partnering with AG1 for so long.
Dave, every week of November, AG1 will be running a special Black Friday offer for a free gift with your first subscription, in addition to the welcome kit with vitamin D3 plus K2. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/Dadville to see what gift you can get this week.
That's drinkag1.com/Dadville to start your holiday season off on a healthier note while supplies last. Did you want to sing something first, or should I open with a song?
We would love that.
We were hopeful.
Yeah.
Okay. Feels like you're warmer than I am.
Until you...
No, that's my song. You have to do...
Okay.
Yeah.
Thought we were doing
Do another one.
Until you...
That's
I
better.
can't stop
it. No, that's the key I want to hear it in. Speaking of hooky, we have two of our favorite people right here playing hooky from their normal jobs to join us here in the Dadville studio, Dadville HQ.
It gets more and more intimidating when we have you guys on because you guys are pro podcasters.
Yeah.
Well, our claim to fame is y'all.
Don't do that.
Seriously.
But go ahead.
When we travel and speak.
Stop her.
Don't do it, but do.
But go ahead.
Yes. At the book table, more comments. People will come up and say, "Hey, Mayor of Dadville," to David. I mean, they're so proud of themselves. Yes.
Ask me to sign books that way sometimes.
Really?
Yes.
Yep.
That's the impact of what you're doing, fellas.
It's all happening. We have once again our dear friends. Did we make you? What did your
we decided
governor or something? What was your?
Was
it
I
governor?
think I maybe outranked David.
You did.
Yeah.
Sorry, David.
Definitely a hierarchy.
She needs to hold a higher office.
No.
Yeah.
That feels necessary.
It helps the relationship continue.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
How are y'all doing?
So happy to be back
yes,
with you two.
we are.
We love being in the Dadville studio always.
We are honored.
How are things at Daystar? How are things in each of y'all's lives? How's life? Like what's the 411?
They're good at Daystar. We have a team in Asheville right now.
That's right.
Helping, which is
So glad
amazing.
you said that. That's
so
right.
grateful they're there. And yeah, we're just kind of plodding along.
Do y'all find? I mean, I have a really dumb question, but is it seasonal at all? Do y'all see bumps in seasons, or is it just kind of the same?
Yes,
You do?
very seasonal.
Oh, because summer, I bet probably thins out a little bit.
Yes,
Oh,
and
you
spring.
have Hopetown that you do.
Yes, but people are very anxious. First, parent-teacher conferences. We see a huge
Oh my
uptick.
gosh, that is so funny.
And then winter are probably our two peak times.
Oh yeah, just because it's dark and short days, and everybody's kind of like
funk.
Yeah. So you do see that.
Mm-hmm.
That is.
Has that been consistent throughout all your years? Like, is that an evergreen sort of rhythm? You know what I mean?
I would say for as long as I've been working with boys, I always know when parent-teacher conferences are happening in October.
Really?
Yes. It's just an identified time where parents are going to hear a lot of the things that you might imagine. You know, he's struggling to stay focused. He's struggling to sit still. He's handsy in the hallways. I've heard that one over.
That was John's first single. And
it was inspired
Island
by your
really
adolescence.
Well, much is. So much is. Handsy in the Hallway sounds like the worst Poison song in the hit, like a Motley Crue song.
Yes.
Handsy
It's
in
a
the
fan
Hallway.
favorite. Never really.
It is. It's a B-side. They never huge in Japan. That song translates well. Yeah, that I would imagine. And then you kind of have Summer with Hopetown, which is great. Tell people a little bit about that, by the way.
So it's our version of a little summer retreat program. And we take, I think we had 199 kids over the course of the summer last year, 2nd through 12th graders, broken down into age group. And I always feel so self-conscious talking about it because people, it's such a rich, sweet place that people inevitably want to send their kids. And we have 2,000 families at Daystar, and we take 30 kids per group. And so it really fills up with Daystar kids.
Gracious.
Do you just go off of like attractiveness, or how do the kids get in?
Yeah. Is it height?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Duly noted.
But it's such a beautiful combination of conversations that are really emotional in nature and digging in terms of depth with kids, but meeting faith. And so I love it. I don't think there's a lot out there like it.
Yeah.
Do you guys do a lot of sort of like, obviously these are all kids that you guys know pretty well from meeting with them one-on-one, and then they're in like group settings and you're doing the, that would be really interesting to see sort of the dynamic change a little bit. And like this kid that you know what they are like, you know their stories, and then you see them in the group and see what changes, see what sort of like hierarchies develop.
Yes.
That's interesting.
I can't even count the amount of kids over the years that have struggled with friendships, and I'll sit with them individually and think, you're delightful, I don't get this. And then we put them in a group setting and I think,
there it is.
You just tickle people all the time.
Things.
And
Right,
that's
totally.
really distracting.
Yes, it's off-putting.
Sorry, I'm speaking.
Tickle.
That's my story. And I shouldn't do that.
Handsy on a hill.
Handsy on a hill.
Well, I'm assuming it's
was
outdoors.
that the
a lot of
Bill
it.
Clinton autobiography? I'm so sorry. That was just, you set it up. I'm going to knock it down.
That sets up politics. Who are you guys voting for?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so today, like John and I were talking, and obviously we've had y'all on so many times. And so the thing that I'm always terrified of is that, because this is sadly the way my brain works, is I'm going to ask like the exact same question we asked last time. And so as we were talking about it, I was like, maybe it'd be fun, John and I agreed, to maybe focus a little on parent stuff. Because, we always talk about kids. That's y'all's, specialty. But like, what would it be like to kind of maybe move the, the sort of move the lens a little to the, up, because we're taller as parents, so maybe it's just you move up from the little sweet faces to the more grizzled, gray-haired faces. And Annie had listened to. Do you ever listen to The Daily? It's the New York Times podcast thing. And so she came in the other day and was, just like, I got to take this podcast. And actually, no, I came in. She was listening to it on her, like out loud on her phone, like just as she was folding clothes. And she's super domesticated. And so I kind of found myself sitting there listening because they were talking about, I'm going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. It was intensive parenting. I don't know if you guys heard about this. It was really interesting, but some of what they talked about was like, it was prompted by the Surgeon General's warning about parenting being so stressful that it's bad for your health. And so, I was talking to Annie about that. John and I were talking about that, but like, I wonder, as we think about parents, obviously you guys deal in so much of the kid stuff that's going on, but you sit with a lot of parents too. What are y'all's thoughts on that in 2024? And as we're about to get into 2025, with sort of like how stressful parenting has become, do you feel like it's always been that way? Do you feel like something is making it more acutely that way than ever? I'd love y'all's thoughts on that.
And the Surgeon General issuing a warning like that is super. I mean, has that ever happened before?
Not that I know of. No.
Not any time I remember.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I'll jump in first,
Sure.
and then you share thoughts. I would say to that, I was and was not surprised. I think I was surprised that it had reached that place, that the U.S. Surgeon General would categorize it in that way. I wasn't surprised in that it's in keeping with everything we've been seeing with parents over the last 5 to 10 years, and that parenting has become unbelievably stressful, competitive. We could fill in the blanks with a lot of things that we were feeling all the evidence of it. And even seeing evidence as we think about, our dear friend here, the governor of Dadville, has written amazing books on kids and anxiety. And
she's with us today.
She's with us today. And is often asked, what are the contributing factors? And we certainly know that anxiety is contagious. And so as parents are carrying more stress and more worry, we've certainly seen the spillover effect of that on kids in ways that we weren't surprised to see it reach that kind of place. But jolting to think it registered in the way it did.
So what's precipitated that change? Like, what do y'all feel like has been? I mean, I feel like there's probably some really obvious answers, but,
Well, I mean, I think one thing is, if you think about, and we're older than you all are, but when I was growing up, there was one parenting book by Dr. Spock. And I think his sagest advice was smile at your children a lot, which my mom took to heart. And Kathleen and I are told that we smile a lot. And maybe that's why, my sister. But now, I mean, I think part of it is we are inundated with voices speaking to us about all things, including parenting.
Yeah.
And there have never, I mean, on one hand, I think we would both say parents have never been as intentional as they are today in this really beautiful way.
Well said.
And at the same time, they've never been abdicating to experts more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
It
they're
does
all over
seem
your
like
social media.
Every aspect, every area of life seems to be getting more intense, just like parenting, right alongside.
Yes,
it.
exactly.
So I agree. It's like everyone is deferring to experts in whatever field it is.
Yes. I had a mom, I was doing a parent consult, which we do a lot, where it's just meetings with parents. And she said to me this week, I was in a really hard moment with my daughter, and she was in a terrible place and being really disrespectful to the people that we were on fall break with, and I didn't know what to do. And so I hopped on a Parenting Experts app, and I was talking to the AI bot about what to do.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Which...
I'd be so curious to read that transcript.
Wouldn't you? I know, me too. But this is a really silly example, but I have a friend who is a phenomenal decorator. And when I moved into my new house, she came over and helped me hang almost all of my pictures. And a month later, I got a new piece of art, and I didn't feel like I could hang it by myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening. I mean, I spoke to a precious mom and dad just this week. And I mean, the smallest hurdle, she would say, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I kept thinking I need to talk to Sissy. And I thought, I don't want you to feel that. I mean, it almost makes me feel like we don't need to have more conversations, because I want you to trust yourself. And I think this expert-driven world is causing all of us in different avenues to doubt our own intuition. And we talk about so much, that's a parent's superpower, is your intuition.
Right.
God has given it to you, and you know your child better than anyone.
Well, and David, you mentioned this, and I hate this word, but I love how descriptive it is, the competitiveness of it.
Yes.
Which, can you speak to that? Because what a great word to describe parenting in 2024,
I know.
Or for those who are listening, 2035. I'm sure this will carry on too. Yeah.
I hate the thought of that fitting as well as it does. But I think, we have watched this acceleration happen with a lot of high school kids, and we talk about thinking back to when we were applying for college. And I don't remember ever thinking for a moment, I won't get in somewhere. Like, I might not get in the place I most want to go, but I'll get in somewhere. And we sit with kids nowadays who are terrified they won't get in anywhere, that it's become so competitive. And how that spills over to parents thinking, we need to start the right extracurriculars. We need to get them in the right preschool. We need to, all the different ways that I think we build toward that moment early on that makes it so competitive. We sit with families all the time who've relocated to Nashville and talk about how unbelievably difficult it is to get into a school in the city, a preschool in the city. And so all the different ways that I think that trickles down, and the fear I'll hear parents' voice of, if he doesn't play, this level of sports at this point, he'll never be able to play in high school.
Right.
And so all the ways I think that's spilling over that make it feel more competitive than it's ever felt. And I think create this panic and urgency that I just don't want parents to carry on the front side of parenting. I don't want them to carry at any stage of parenting, but particularly that early.
John, how much fun do we have just on a regular basis?
A surprising amount of fun.
I don't want to interrupt. Do you know what hits just right when I'm heading out on a long Thanksgiving road trip?
Tell me.
Methodical coffee.
Oh, my gosh. Mr. Obvious.
It's the perfect coffee to get me going and help me stay alert for all those crazy drivers out there.
Yep.
None of whom, of course, would be our Dadville listeners.
No. Of course, Dave.
Drivers.
Our listeners are excellent drivers. I want to state that for the record. And Methodical is excellent coffee with coffee and tea for every taste. Roasted, blended, brewed, served, and perfected by coffee and tea aficionados everywhere.
Methodical has also resolved the headache, oh good gracious, of having too little or too much coffee from your traditional time-based coffee.
Yesteryear.
With Methodical, you can subscribe by usage.
You can receive a free smart scale that tracks your coffee consumption and triggers your next order right at the perfect time. It's like we're living in the future, Dave. So you always have the right amount of coffee on hand, worry-free.
Best part is you can receive 20% off your first bag and 10% off subsequent bags. That just means bags after it, John. Yes. With no code needed when you try the free smart scale.
I'm going to reach out to them and tell them this is a bad idea because they're losing money on this. They don't care about making money.
They have love, but they're losing money.
Dave, as you know, we also have our very own Dadville blend. It's filled with hints of chocolate, brown sugar, and graham. I mixed up the order there.
You did.
It gets us going every fall morning, people.
Guys, you know who's not going to mix up your order? Methodical. They're on a mission to connect people to the beauty of life through coffee experiences for people like me and you and everyone listening. All the great drivers listening out there. Methodical has been roasting and hosting like crazy people since 2015.
2015, almost 10 years. Look, on their website, you're going to find brew guides that'll teach you how to turn your coffee brewing chore into a beloved ritual.
You'll look forward to
Receive 20% off. Again, this is the deal that... We don't know how we feel about it because we love them as a company.
Let's make a couple of
We're going to call them after this.
Yeah.
So while it's going on, receive 20% off your first bag and 10% off of all subsequent bags. No code needed.
And call now, folks, because once they realize how bad of a deal this is,
we
they're going
to
to shut it
down.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I want to tell you one more thing.
Go ahead.
Craft a cup you'll love with Methodical coffee. And then literally the name of the place is Right Hair right now. No joke.
Okay.
Yes.
I love Dollywood.
It's so great.
Listen, Dave.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. I'm reading this right now. The way the season is going for Mississippi State, I'm thinking you might be ready to pull your hair out.
Listen, my Bulldogs.
Does it sound like I know what I'm talking about?
It does. My Bulldogs they're on the struggle bus right now. But guess what? That bus is still going and it's headed to good places. But not first through some really hard places, John.
Sure.
I'd like to think of myself as a classy and refined fan of the Bulldogs, John. So much so that even when I ring my cowbell, I do it eloquently. But if I was ever tempted to pull my hair out, I would probably recover nicely because of guess what?
Nutrafol. That is exactly right, Dave. You know, now we're talking about something I do know what I'm talking about. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement with sit down for this, 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding.
Physician formulated with 100% drug-free ingredients.
Y'all better stay seated.
It's legal and it's above board with us, okay? Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting key root causes of thinning. Guess what those are, John? Stress.
I would guess stress, hormones, aging, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism. Got us
whole body health.
With a Nutrafol subscription, building a hair growth routine is simple. You can purchase online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you right on track.
Get results you can run your fingers through, folks.
I get it.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription. And, like they're trying to give away the company, free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Dadville.
Now find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair.
How's it spelled, John?
Well, I was about to tell him. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Dadville.
That's Nutrafol.com, promo code what, John?
Dadville.
So what do you do? I mean, if you're a parent that's listening to this, John and I know, so I want to be clear.
Yeah, but for the listeners, guys, what do they do?
But like, what do you do if parents are listening to this going, oh my God, it's my life? And even more so, like you said, with the mom who's going, I'm just in this well-worn groove of like, I have people helping me make decisions now that are online or in the room with my kids, whatever, with therapists and stuff. I don't know, like you just kind of, that muscle's not as strong, right? It's just not being as flexed as much because other people are sharing the load with you. What do you do? Like,
well, and I'm sure that, like, when you were talking about your, decorator friend and how you felt like you couldn't hang that, it made me think, like, is the lie that's being told, like, if we can parse it all down to like one sort of statement that's being told to parents, that you can't do it. Like, you can't do it by yourself. And it's interesting because that also is sort of this timeless sage wisdom that we've always given to parents, is you can't do it alone. It takes the village kind of a thing. So it's sort of this weird, warped kind of like truth that has been sort of like hijacked, and where maybe back in the day you would lean on your actual community and your family, etc. And now you're, I'm looking at my phone in my hand, like it's all right there. Like you can go to whatever that app.
And hundreds of thousands of experts.
Yes.
As opposed to your grandmother or your neighbor or the person that you go to and go, hey, help me out here. What's the move?
And then it's even more twisted because it's like, then you now in 2035, you want to then go to that AI bot, get some information, and then turn that phone around and film yourself doing whatever, coloring with your kids or something. It's this weird sort of, sorry, not to hijack that question.
Cycle, yes.
Is it as simple as like, we need to get back to, I mean, that sentence right there I feel conflicted about even saying it, but is it as simple as like, we need to go back to something that we had as parents?
Well, from a really very practical standpoint, we have been saying in parenting seminars, unfollow the experts. Pick 2 or 3. Thank you so much. Pick 2 or 3, and let those be the voices that you trust, and choose people that empower you.
Yeah.
And I think some of that, and we could talk about parenting trends, but too, I think some of the issue is that the trends right now are almost counterintuitive in some ways. And so I think it's making parents feel less equipped to do what needs to be done.
Like, what's an example of a counterintuitive trend?
Well, we can get super controversial really quickly.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
No, I mean, I don't know that I want us to, but it has become very child-led.
Yeah.
And I think parents are losing. I think there's so much pressure to be in tune emotionally, which obviously we're advocates for as therapists. But there's so much pressure to do that I think it feels like you can't even parent. Yeah. Sometimes you can't be the grown-up in the room because you've got to be so aware of what your child's feeling. And we talk so much about how boundaries create security with kids, but too much power creates insecurity.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And so feeling like there's this cycle that's happening where we're so in tune with them emotionally that their emotions are dictating everything. And then they're feeling insecure and anxious because their emotions are dictating everything. They're too powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a very roundabout answer to your question, David. I'm sure you have more wisdom on that.
No, I think I was thinking this to where we started with that question. One thing that I think is back to the basics is we talk a lot about, when Sissy talked about trusting your gut a few minutes ago, how I really can't trust my gut. I can't even trust the knowing that I have the Holy Spirit inside of me, like access to this wisdom, unless I can quiet the voice of worry and the voice of competition and the voice of all these other things that could keep me from being able to access that wisdom. Mm-hmm. And within that, knowing that what might work for this person over here really might not work for me. And that, I've been given the exact kids I needed. And if I believe that to be true, and we talk with parents about that all the time, then that would obviously mean I can trust the God who gave them to me, and that He's going to intuitively nudge me in the directions I need to go, as opposed to believing all that information is floating around out there, and I hope I find my way to the best of it.
Yeah.
And so I do think there's something really important about that we talk a lot with parents about. Like, what practices do you need to have in place that allow you to push out the worry, like to be able to access the wisdom that really God's given you to parent the kids you've been given.
Well, isn't it funny too? Because it sort of assumes this crazy double thing, which is like that we don't have enough wisdom as parents. That the 46 years, 27 years 32 years I've lived, having amassed some kind of wisdom.
Right.
That's a pretty overwhelming thought. Like that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Of course I've learned some
Right.
things.
Yeah.
So it sort of underassumes what we know and just what life does to you and hopefully what you can compile wisdom-wise. It also really underestimates a kid's ability. And I think like some of the messaging these days really is about like your kid needs, and it's like, man, kids, I mean, you guys know better than anybody. I mean, kids are so resilient, and yes, they can be hurt in so many ways and life is hard, but ultimately God created these crazy little things that can maneuver some insanely hard circumstances. Yes. And I think that little double thing of like knowing that, man, parents, you do know some things. Like trust the fact that you've been through hard things, you've overcome significant things, and this kid is yours for a reason. But two, like, hey, your kid's tough. Yes. Like they can deal with hard things, and even if you fudge some stuff, like it's not like suddenly they're gonna careen off the cliff into whatever, and there's also in every kid, this survival thing that they figure out too, just like, and so it's got to be tricky because I can imagine too, as you said, John, it's so true. It's like so much of the messaging these days is, I've never really even thought about that. Like what it assumes when so many people are experts in therapy or have a million, but it assumes like, you guys don't really know what you're doing.
Yes.
And so we need to have every single color of the rainbow on this one type, and then the next one, just as many in that.
Yes.
And it really
makes
does
so much sense that would be so sticky when it comes to parenting, because parents, from day one, of course you feel like you can't do this. Like when you're leaving the hospital, you're like, how am I? Yeah. How are they letting us drive away?
Yeah.
So you're just like, that's already in there. That voice is so loud from day one. It reminds me of that. I've been listening to Jonathan Haidt's book, Anxious Generation.
I just finished it.
And I said listening because I'm not physically reading it, so I wanted to be clear on that. I want to be honest. But he talks about this, I'm going to botch this, but there like some scientists were trying to figure out if they could like grow trees on Mars or something like that. And they were growing these trees completely indoors, like under these little domes or whatever. And the trees they would grow and then they would just fall over if you would breathe on them, because they never had any wind. Like
to get
hitting
the
against them.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so, and there was some term
Every
that he came up
pastor
with
saw that and was like, "Oh my God!"
Sermon series.
Yes.
And so obviously we know that is true. Like we have like a physical example that is true, and we can bring that into parenting. And you need to sort of, kids need to feel autonomous and grow trust in themselves through experiences. But the rub is always, and I'm all for that, but the rub, of course, when it gets to the day-to-day application of that is, where is it? Where do I, like, to give you an example, my oldest now, she can email us in the middle of the day, and often does, and she just emailed me today, like, can you, and it wasn't, please bring me home. She was like, can you bring me this thing? But when she emails and she's like, I'm having a really hard day. Can you please, can I come home early? And this doesn't happen all that often, but it's like, that's just a small example. Like, when do you go pick her up? And when do you just not respond to that email? Because this is just me personally, I think you know your kid, so you got to go off of like her voice there. But I think most of the time you don't respond to that email. That's just me personally. But then of course my mind shoots ahead to her when she's in her 20s and she's living underneath some car. It's not even her. She's not even living in the car. She's underneath.
She can't afford the car. She's paying for the undercar
saving
rent
up just to get
in the car.
The car.
Yeah, the back seat.
And she's like, yeah, my parents, I never felt hurt. I would scream, help me. And they would just, they never came, which of course is not true, but that's the fear in the moment. It's like, where are the lanes there? When do you jump in and help? And when do you let them kind of like bolster their own autonomy?
Well, and before you have a great response to this that I want you to speak to, but before you do, I think it's worth noting as you ask that question to the conversation we were just sharing about parent stress, think about what you just described. Like the reality is all four of us had those kind of days.
Yes.
Right.
But our parents didn't know because we didn't have a way to communicate. That's one of the things that makes parenting more stressful in this day.
Yeah.
You had to carry that for the rest of the day. Whatever decision you made in ways that our parents didn't, where they were just like...
Yeah, they didn't know. No. They literally couldn't worry about it because it was not even something they knew.
Absolutely. So that, I think, is important to note.
And it does make you think, like, I'm not sure how much we're gaining from that level of constant communication.
Exactly.
Nor could our parents look online and discover that I had bombed a test that day or forgot to turn in an assignment the day before. Like those, they found out when the report cards came out. Is when they got that information. But I got in front of you saying something.
Well, I don't know what you thought I was going to say. I'd be curious what the helpful thing was.
I was hoping you were going to talk about escape and avoidance.
Oh, gotcha. Well, so research says the two most common parenting strategies in light of anxiety are escape and avoidance. And that is certainly what we're seeing more of in the last 5 years than we have ever seen, of just a lot of stepping in and rescuing. And every person who works with anyone who's ever dealt with anxiety would say to work through it, you have to do the scary thing.
Yeah.
So we are, and I mean, I think I've probably said this to y'all before, but in the anxiety research, the definition I came up with is anxiety is an overestimation of the problem and an underestimation of themselves.
What a great word. That's great.
So when we step in, we're basically saying, were you to go get her? And it wasn't a really intuitively, you knew she was really okay.
Yeah.
You're basically saying, yeah, you probably couldn't have gotten through the day on your own. You needed me.
Yeah.
To come get
what
you.
Can I also say? You're also doing something to yourself, which is I couldn't have gotten through the day knowing my child is in pain.
Yes.
Ooh,
I can't do the hard
good.
yes.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And so I think that's what's so interesting about those scenarios is you realize like it's doubly detrimental. It's not just your child. It's like you're kind of reteaching yourself some things, which is really scary too.
Yes. And I know what I was going to say before. I think it feels like this universal truth that your kids are going to be in counseling because of failures.
Yeah.
They're going to want to parent differently than you did in their 20s, and then they're going to get to their 40s and say, my parents were brilliant.
Right.
But it feels like in the last that we almost hit some kind of age of awareness, maybe when we were like a decade in as counselors, that things shifted. And parenting became based on, I'm going to fix all the mistakes my parents ever made with me. And I'm going to have the relationship. And my kids are always going to feel like I understand them.
Yeah.
Which is never going to happen. That's part of being a child, is to feel like my parents don't understand me. They don't get it. But I think there is this almost myth that we're operating under of I can prevent it from happening. Like I can prevent the rupture at some point relationally. And it's just
okay. So we had Elliot Cherry, our good friend, on, and we kind of talked about that. And I would just love y'all's perspective on this. But like, Sissy, to your idea that like, we're trying to heal these things. How much of that as a parent is really us trying to heal our stuff? Or like our kids are these little mirrors of our lives that we're, and the way we talked about is how it iterated in sports and just seeing your kid. And I would say, not that we laughed about Amy and Annie doing this very thing. So I'm not at all saying women can't do this. That's not, but I just know as a man, and when you have your kid doing a sport, and for me, it's the boys, there's just all, and we talked about it in this podcast, but I thought I was like, man, I'm not those crazy dads who, and then, you have your kids experience, like they didn't make the team. And then this one, and you're just, it's like what is this? Like the fires of Mordor in my chest I'm going to grow wings and I'm just like enraged,
Yes.
But what is that? It's your point about watching your kid and trying to keep them. But there's also this other part that's like watching them trying to sort of like relive your life. So it's not just as benevolent as like, I don't want them to be hurt. There's also a very selfish part of this that's like, oh, this is the way I fix everything.
Right.
That makes me feel better. Or it sort of congratulates my own parenting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Have you heard that Richard Rohr statement? If it's hysterical, it's historical.
Whoa. Good
So
night.
those fires of Mordor are always an indicator to us that it's more about us than it is about them.
Oh, man, that's good.
I know.
And he also says, whatever we don't transform, we transfer.
Oh, bro, that one is...
There's great truth in all those things.
Night.
I know.
God, the historical hysteria. Yeah, both of those are wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first, I think it was the first moments on this podcast was we had Stephen James on. I mean, this was one of the very first episodes that we did. And I was describing a situation with Luca. And it was the first time, school hadn't even started, like kindergarten hadn't started yet. And she was, the parents were having like a meeting, and then we could see the kids like right here.
This almost feels like they did this on purpose. You know what I mean? Like there was a camera somewhere. We're going to put the kids out and play.
Yeah, like Malcolm Gladwell is going to have a book in 5 years, and we're going to be the subject.
We did a test study.
It's really true. I've actually never thought about that. But like we were all in this meeting, and the kids were all outside playing. And they weren't doing organized games. They were just playing. And my number one, I couldn't even focus on the meeting. I was just so enthralled with like, what's Luca doing? Is she playing with friends? Is she making a friend? Is she, And it's kind of funny now because it's been years of me walking around and doing life with this truth that I didn't see this before, but he was like, that is totally your thing. Luca is totally fine. And he was like playing with a leaf most of the time. And of course now years later, she's fine.
Right.
But
my concern was like, she's never going to have any friends.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why I
drop the leaf. Go talk to the
girls. It's not even a good leaf. That's one of the dead ones. Find a maple or an oak. I don't know anything about trees.
Maple would be pretty.
But to your point, Dave, it's like, yeah, you can do it without even. It can be so ingrained and like subconscious. You can just do it without even realizing it. I don't even know if there's a way to parent easily without parenting out of your own insecurities and scars.
And I think it should inform it, obviously.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
It's like that's some of wisdom is using what you've learned.
I guess it's the question is, how do you do that in a way that is sort of healthy, where it informs it, but it's not just completely like transferring all the, trauma and stuff from your childhood.
Yeah.
So y'all tell us how to fix that, please. Over to you.
But how do you love alliteration?
But with parents, how would y'all, with the wisdom you have around that, how would you encourage parents that are, how do you know you're doing that? First, maybe it's a historical. But two, like in those moments where you feel yourself doing that, what is the move? Like, how do you sort of, oh boy, I'm overdriving my kid in this one performance thing, be it sports, ballet, art, singing, whatever, because I need this to be at a certain level for me to feel whatever I need to feel, and then how do you navigate that?
I can jump in first if you want me to. I had a mom one time who came to see me, and this was really before we did parent consults, and she said, I have never thought about how similar my mother and my daughter are. And her daughter's name, we'll say, was Molly. It started with an M. And she said, we were driving in the car the other day, and my daughter started poking at me in this way that felt really familiar. And she said, all of a sudden, I snapped at her, and I said, Molly.
Oh, my goodness.
And she said, I knew in that moment it was more about me, and I needed to come in and talk to you. And I think that's why we love that we get to do parent consults, because I do think it's probably really helpful to, one, know your stuff well enough to know what it looks like when it rises up in you, whether it's you get hyper emotional or you go really dark and get silent or whatever it is, get really anxious. And then have a go-to person that's your person, that it's your spouse or your friend or a therapist that you say, hey, here was my response. Do you think that was more about me than it was about them? They can help you figure it out.
Yeah, for me, it's always going to be Casey and the Sunshine Band. Doesn't matter what anybody says.
For babysitting, though.
Yeah, he's really nice and fast.
Okay.
When you think about businesses, John, sorry if I non-sequitur.
No, this was the natural flow of the conversation.
When you think about businesses that are doing great, can I name two?
Please.
Momofuku or Aviator Nation.
I knew you were going with that.
I'm sure you think about a great product or a cool brand.
That's exactly what I think about. Yeah, how'd you know?
But John, an often overlooked secret is actually the business behind the business that is making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Hit them with the sound.
Guys, nobody does selling better than Shopify.
Nope.
Home of the #1 checkout. I say again, the #1 checkout on the planet. We can't speak for any other planets, but for this one, it's Shopify. Yeah. And the not-so-secret Shop Pay, which boosts conversion up to 50%.
Meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. Hit them with that sound one more time.
So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whenever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between.
Can I tell you just a flat fact, John?
Please.
Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify.
I love facts like that. Let me hit you with another one.
Okay.
Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Aviator Nation uses. That can be yours. Sign up for your $1 per month. You heard me right. $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Dadville, all lowercase.
Go to shopify.com/Dadville to upgrade your selling today.
Shopify.com/Dadville.
The holiday season officially starts when you get that first card in the mail. Shutterfly makes it easy to add more meaning to the everyday with hundreds of holiday card designs that can be personalized in seconds with your favorite photos from this year. Select your greeting, customize the color, and even add little extras like personalized foil to make a holiday card that really shines. Enjoy 40% off with code SMILE40 at Shutterfly.com and send something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
Well, it's so funny because we, in the last couple months, one of our kids had a little tryout sports thing. It didn't go like I wanted it to. I'm going to be really clear. They were completely fine with it. And I was just laying waste to the field. I was just, and we get in the car and I'm just like, well, how you feeling? Great. That was so fun. And I was like,
wow.
It was just like calm the ocean, calm. We drove home and it was great and chatted. And I just thought, wow, that was interesting that I have so much invested in this thing. And this child was like, great. When's the first game? And I was like, okay.
That was the first game and we lost.
The game of life. We're losing. But realizing like, man, there's this really powerful thing sitting in each of us as a parent with our kids, that some of it, like we said before, is great and it's beautiful. And you really want to encourage and use your guidance in these things and encourage them to do as well as they can. But at the same time, like, that thing can flip so fast.
But that it's both. I mean, I think, John, to your story, when you were telling that, I thought, if my dad had been sitting in the kindergarten meeting, he wouldn't have gone #1.
Right.
Because in the 70s, it would have been 99% moms.
Yep.
Your dad would have been there. But he would have no more been thinking about what I was doing. I mean, and so as we're talking about this, I would want any parent listening to also give themselves a lot of grace in this.
Yeah.
Because part of the problem is I feel like I'm failing, so then I'm more mad at myself, so then I'm more anxious, and it just compounds.
Right.
But it's a beautiful thing that you were that aware of Luca. It says so much about your heart and intentionality as a dad, and that you were as upset about whatever the sports thing was as you were. It says so much about how in tune you are with that child.
And I think to John's point, it's like, but sometimes like a little too in tune.
Sure.
A little too in tune.
Right.
I can feel like, boy, I am heavily invested in this thing, or just like, it's like, what is I feel that as much with Annie and I and our kids is kind of like, what is the line for knowing what's going on, how they're doing, and then where is it kind of like, you'll figure it out. because, we were laughing, I don't even know that we talked about this. We did, but like John and I have talked about this, but like the way our kids relate to me and Annie is so different. And there's sometimes like Annie's talking about this thing with Ben last night. She's like, oh, she had this interaction with this kid and whatever. And it's kind of like, hey, on the car ride this morning, I was like, oh yeah, I got it. So we get in the car and literally I'm like, hey, Mom told me this thing. He's like, yeah, bah, bah, bah. And I was like, oh yeah, so what did you like, what did you have any? And he's like, man, it was just kind of, and I was like, yep. We just drove the rest of the way. You're just kind of like, meanwhile with Annie, he's like, and then this happened and I felt this thing and then I felt this thing and then I felt, and I'm like, am I doing this wrong? And then I was like, I don't think, it's just that I'm a dad and we relate in different ways.
Right.
But I think if I'm not careful, I'll go into sort of like helicopter mode where it's you need to tell me how you're doing. Because I need to be connected. I need to know everything that's going on. Yes. And I had to give myself, because this has happened a lot more in the last year, just give myself the grace of like, that's just not what he or she, whatever that morning is. They just don't want to talk about it. And then sometimes they do. But then there's things they really want to talk about that they don't talk about with Annie. And like with, my boys, it's sports stuff. Dad, you did the game last night? Fantasy football. Should I start my court? And he's just like, and I'm like, God, you were talking so much about this. But then he gets in the car with Annie and it's like, this is what was hard and beautiful in the school. And then, and then I'm like, how'd they go? And he's like, it was good. I'm like, you got, but letting that be okay and not feeling like.
Yes. And you asked. You acknowledged that you knew it and you were interested. Yeah,
I tried. Yeah.
What do you guys like? As I've been listening to the Anxious Generation, and every now and then I'm not consuming parenting books like crazy, but every now and then there'll be some book that like just everyone's talking about, and it tends to revolve around technology and social media, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, that's for me, 2 girls. One's in middle school, one will be there soon. That is top of mind for me. And there's just a heaviness that is just like on all of our shoulders right now with any new information that's coming out. And I'm curious if you guys see anything that is like hopeful that surprises you with the kids that you get to meet with on a daily basis. Because there's so much negativity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know if negativity is the right word. I mean, there's a good reason for us to be very, very concerned. But I also want to balance it out with, the hopeful things that you guys are seeing.
Mm-hmm. We had a hopeful experience a couple of weeks ago. And we were invited by Meta to come to their headquarters in New York. Holy and cow. They were rolling out the new initiative around teen accounts for Instagram.
Okay.
And I will say, side note, it was really fascinating for us to have been there and posted about it. And we got
it's these two. You've got to tell them the real truth behind it.
I can't confess to that. Well, I'm not on social media.
I can't confess to that. It's a great phrase, by the way.
Yeah.
I can't confess to that.
I'm not on social media. Uh-huh. And so when it first came through, Sissy said, we got an invitation from Meta. And I'm like, who's Meta?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That feels right.
Yeah.
Is that a new rapper?
That's great.
But I got on board real quick. And it was interesting. We got a lot of criticism just for even being there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And being hopeful and excited about what they're doing. And we weren't there to endorse that initiative, but we were there to say we're excited about anybody who is taking this new information we have on hand, and Jonathan Haidt's book is a great summary of some of the best data we have access to right now, and saying, what do we need to be doing different? Mm-hmm. And it felt like they were really responding to that, even to the point of saying, we didn't have access to all this information when we created this animal, and so we want to walk this back and think about how we could allow kids to have access if parents want that, and that's the big if. At this point, for them to be safer and not have access to everything early on, and even creating AI tools that make it almost impossible. Nothing's 100% proof, but almost impossible for kids to lie about their age and sign up for an account too early. And so it felt really hopeful, and thinking about them leading in that space, and thinking about Jonathan's work, just folks who are saying, let's try to make the most informed decisions we can, because we're all still new to this. Is the bottom line. Like, this has not been around forever.
Right.
What would you say to that?
Well, I have 2 girls right now that I've met with in the last 2 weeks. They're giving me hope. But before I get to that, you told a different thing than I thought you were going to tell. I thought you were going to tell who you were telling everyone you were at the Meta meeting.
So,
wow.
The other thing that we'll say about that experience is they had all these different folks who are part of this launch event, and Jessica Alba was there as the she was the celebrity.
Yes, panelist.
Yes, and I looked around the room at one point and I said to Sissy, I'm the oldest man in the room by at least 20 years at this point. Like, people are wondering
was that young.
How in the world did that guy get in the room?
Influencers. Yeah. 98% influencers.
Okay.
TikTok.
So not experts?
There were some. Dr. Eliza Pressman was there.
They interviewed a lot of experts, but the people receiving the information were podcasters, influencers.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you get that call? I feel like
that must have been a lunch.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't able to
went to voicemail.
Yeah.
Went to voicemail.
And so I decided at that point, I think I'm just gonna, if asked who I am, just say I'm Jessica Alba's dad. And I feel really proud of the work Jessica's doing in the world. That was the only way made sense for me to even be there. Proud, yes. I'm so proud of Jessica.
He's either a narc or he's Jessica Alba's dad.
Totally.
That is amazing.
That was good.
Like, one more.
Yeah.
Like, how many? I'm just curious. How many people were there? Was it like massive?
No, it was 80 to 100.
Oh, wow.
I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It was really. I mean, I think there were 2 podcasts there, and it was I mean, you would have laughed. Y'all would have laughed hard at us because I feel certain there were a lot of really famous TikTok influencers, and neither one of us knew who any of them were. We just were like, hey.
I love that they invited you guys.
Us
we
too.
were so honored to be in the room.
We were really honored.
I want
Shocked.
you guys to be in the room.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, so I have 2 girls right now. They're giving me hope. One I met with last week, and both of them are in middle school clamoring for phones.
Yep.
Both of their moms have wisely said, you are more than welcome to have a flip phone. There are so many phone options I would love for you to have, and the girls only want an iPhone.
Of course.
And one of them, every time I see her, certainly says, I don't understand why my mom won't give me a phone. I wish she'd give me a phone. Everyone has a phone, that whole thing. And her mom came in, and the 3 of us met 2 weeks ago, and her mom said, I'm just not doing it yet. And in fact, I'm not even going to give you, don't get your hopes set on Christmas, because I'm not going to give you a phone for Christmas, because I don't want you to feel like this is a gift that is yours. Because when you get a phone, it's going to be my phone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, there's going to be a day that I'm going to say, we're going to drive to AT&T today and we're getting your phone. And y'all, there was something about this girl's push for a phone that it was almost as if she had to. That because she's the age she is, she had to be pushing for a phone. But I felt like when her mom said that, she settled into this secure place. And then I met with a girl yesterday who we were sitting on my floor with my puppy in my office, and it was probably 40 minutes into the 50-minute hour. And she said, well, the only thing I haven't told you about is I have a really strained relationship right now with my mom. And her mom's amazing. And I said, really? Tell me about that. And she said, well, she won't let me have the phone. And I'm literally the last girl in my class. And I said, oh, yeah, I hear you. And I mean, as kids do so often with us in counseling, she kept going on and on about their relationship and how hard it was because of this. And I said, are there other things that are making your relationship strained? Well, no. And so she kept going. And finally she said, as we were standing up, she said, I think you should talk to my mom about the phone. And I said, I kind of felt like that's where you're going, and I'm not going to do that. And we walked down, and her mom came up, and her mom said, I know that thing y'all say about don't be the first, don't be the last, be the next last. And she said, I just don't think she's ready. And with this girl too, I think she's pushing because she feels uncomfortable. Just like any of us did when we were the only one, whatever. And I thought, when she was talking about it, I think I pushed as hard on my parents about having a phone in my room, connected to the wall, as she is about this. And kids need things to push against their parents for. And it's so good for her. It's so good for her to wait. She can handle being the only one. And I love that this mom is saying, I trust my gut, and it's not time. And so, and I think with both of them, I did feel overarchingly that there's this sense of security in my mom's protecting me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great.
Well, we are in right in that phase. I mean, taking Luca to school this morning, it's like, and it doesn't feel tense. It's great. It's like, good. It feels like like she's bringing it up. She's bringing it up. And I'm like, there was a point in the drive where she was like, we talked about something else. We passed somebody that we knew. And then she's like, all right, let's get back to the phone. And I was like, no, we're done with the phone. And she was kind of like, all right. It felt amicable.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes.
So sometimes I do wonder, I mean, that's a great point that like kids need something to push back on their parents about. It does kind of feel that way. Mm-hmm. It almost feels like this is a little game that we're doing. And it's kind of like this fun thing that we talk about. It's like Dave and his best friend who like is a Tottenham fan and you're an Arsenal fan. It's like, that's kind of your thing right now. This is like our English Premier League soccer right now.
Yeah. I think it's a great thing for parents to think about in every season, from toddlers all the way through teenagers. Like it's our job to set and hold boundaries. It's kids' job to push against those.
Wow.
And so
that's good.
Where's that happening in this season that I can say is normal and even good and healthy?
Wow, that's great. Gosh, that's good. I was talking to a buddy about this the other day, and he said something that I have thought about, and because he's got a couple kids in high school now. And I was just like, how's that going? And he's like, I just love this analogy so much. He's like, I tell you what I was not prepared for is how opinionated high schoolers are. And I started laughing, and he's like, I said, but don't you feel like, because he's a very strong, spirited guy. And I was like, but don't you think to the degree that you are opinionated, your kids have to be? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, my son, he's just brushing me back from the plate with every pitch. Like, he's just kind of, And I was like, what a great sort of like, just keep me in check. Because it's like, as hot as I come in, he's got to come in as hot because, that's the energy, And so he was like, oh, that's a good point. But I do think, that is so helpful to me. I love that because it takes to your point, John, it kind of takes the weight off of like, we get this reconciled right now. And it's like, oh, this is the band. This is what we do.
Yep.
This is kind of the push and pull of kids. And
because it will be something.
It will be something.
If we got Luca an iPhone 16 right now, eventually it would be something else.
Yes.
I mean, probably 5 minutes later on the phone, it would be something else. Yes. It'd be like, not that app. Or not that, whatever.
Yeah, it's always going to go somewhere. Well, too, we talked about a couple episodes ago, just John and I, about like, it's been interesting watching, because, Luca's the age he is, and that's kind of happening. Ben is 7th grade now, and he's even coming in and saying, and this is where I really feel for those kids, is like, he's just like, I'm just kind of like lonely. Because, you walk in after school and you go to talk to all your friends and they're staring at their phone.
Right.
And it's comical because I'll drive up and it's literally like 10 boys just sitting there together with their best friends, staring at their phones. And you're just like,
and there's Ben with like an oak leaf.
Yeah, leaf, just looking at it.
Maples.
He's like, I'll deal with it.
Can't get any traction.
Is there any trading? Anybody have a nice pin oak that I could trade for? But and like so he's logging a couple things. He's like, man, that that'd be cool to not just be alone. So I don't even know if it's about the phone at that point. But also he's like, gosh, like I don't like how addicted these guys in my grade are to these phones.
Yes.
Yet what we talked about, which is true, is it's going to happen. Like the way that works in your brain, it only goes one way. Like no human is ever strong enough to be like, this doesn't bother me. My neurons don't fire the same. Or the chemical. It's just made to addict you. And so I think what's sad is I'm looking at a kid, I think Ben would even probably say right now, like, I don't even know that I want one. It's just gross. But the minute, but then he'll get on his watch that sits by our thing, and I'm like, bud, and he's like, Ben, he's like, yeah, what? I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, just texting a couple of my friends. And I'm like, see, bro, like, it's just, it's not your fault, but it's just, this is what it does.
Yes.
And so I think to your point, and the wisdom with those moms is like, you just kind of know you're giving this kid this weapon.
Yeah.
And it's gravity goes one way with them.
Right.
And so even with kids who could be the most wonderful, present, they're still, it's just these things just kind of do what they do.
Yes.
And so knowing when your kid is ready, if that's even, I don't even, 46, I'm not ready.
Right.
It's stronger than I am even now.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, it's a big decision.
Right.
And it's kind of feels like once the addiction starts,
yes,
it's really hard to pull back on it.
That's what this mom yesterday, she said, when I give her that phone, her life will never be the same.
Yes, that's exactly
it
right.
will be the focal point. Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, which is terrifying, but also is the world that we live in.
Right.
You know, and so you kind of go, well, you got, how do you...
Right. At some
and
point.
then I get to, and then I get terrified, which is a whole other thing, but I'm just like, what example am I showing my kids and how to use a phone? Oh, God, it's nightmarish.
Yeah.
Because I try to be strong and I'm not. And then I don't want to be that dad that's in the movie. It's like, just don't be like me, son. You have a chance. You've seen what it does to me.
Run.
Run now.
Run to the Oaks.
I told David I went to see Bluey. I took my nephews to the Bluey Live right now on stage.
Oh, yeah?
The whole plot line is the kids are trying to get the dad off the phone.
No.
The whole play
Bluey
is about
is
that.
the greatest thing ever.
Oh, that makes me feel great and sad.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Both.
Why not the mom? Why couldn't they have
I know.
villainized the mom?
I know.
Come on.
I know.
Jeez.
Yeah. Bluey's
But I'm sure
out
it's
to get
great,
the dads in
right?
the world. Yeah, it's great.
I love
it.
Bluey
Was
so
so
much.
fun.
That show, I mean, that's the whole thing, but I think the thing that I love about it is it's so real.
Yes.
Like it's that. It's
Yes.
not, he's a great dad. He loves his kids,
Oh.
but he's also a dad.
Yep.
And they don't, mom's the mom. There's no like, we're either the best or the worst.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
wonderfully in the middle.
Yes.
I love that the dad is not just a blubbering idiot.
Yes.
There's some shows that my girls watch that I'm like, I don't know if I want them subconsciously thinking like, okay, so dad doesn't know anything about anything. I'm like, come on.
You know, it's funny. Okay, this will be the last thing because I know I've got places. The kids, Xana has been watching Full House. And one of the funniest things to me is when you sort of like, because we were so excited, because it's like, what are shows she can watch that you're not, because there were a couple like I'd walk in and they're like, they're young shows. They're not on the branding. You're like, this is great. And then you're like, honey, what are they, Paul, what are they talking about? She's
Right.
like, whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's find something else. Okay. So first it was Hannah Montana, which was great.
Really?
Like oddly enough was like, okay, this is like we watched couples like, okay, this feels safe, What is she doing now? Let's just stay here for now and watch this and not talk about that. Don't Google whatever you're doing. Don't. But it was funny because Full House, and I was like, Annie and I got so nostalgic. So we were like, oh,
Yeah.
and so we
That
sat
intro.
down. Oh,
And it lasts like 15 minutes.
Oh.
Just the intro
and then I
song.
did like the deepest dive on all the TV themes of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
just
that's
was like
so fun.
happy, so happy.
Paul
But
could sing a few for us.
everywhere you go, everywhere.
All right, stop. We don't have the money.
It's a grand nation this day and age. Yeah. But the thing that was so funny is as we're watching, like it's like the first episode, and I'm like snuggled up with Zane. I'm like, this is just a peek. Annie's over there. We're like, and like within the first 3 minutes, there's a sexual innuendo, and I was like,
Wow.
wait, what? And then there was like another one a minute later. I was like, honey, and she's like, I don't remember this part of the show.
I know,
and I'm thinking
man.
like,
Wow.
Wow.
Anything from the 80s, early 90s, it tends to go that way.
Of course,
There's
just
so much stuff that I'm like, I don't remember that.
I mean, Jesse, Uncle Jesse's. It's
Oh,
just
I'm
one
sure.
after, and I was like, okay, all right. Well, let's just take a quick pause. Dad may need to revisit Full House.
Sex is a wonderful thing.
It is a wonderful. So there's a boy and a girl. Well, thank y'all again
Oh,
for coming
y'all,
on.
it's so fun to be
Well, let
with
me
y'all.
ask before we send you up. Anything coming up? Any books? Any live events? Anything we're pushing over in Daystar Land?
We have some children's books coming out in
Oh
the
my
near
gosh.
future
Okay.
that we're super excited about.
Called the
amazing.
Daystar Dog series.
Oh, that's
Oh, nice.
great.
Yeah.
Different dogs
So
learning
whole-
different things.
Just a whole new direction for us.
That's amazing.
That's
Is that? Do
cool.
you have any timeline on that?
May, I think, or the
Okay.
first two.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Okay. And the podcast is every week. Yeah.
Yes.
Raising
week.
boys and girls.
Twice every other. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys are.
But you
I
guys
don't know how
put two
many that
episodes
means.
out every other week.
Yes.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right
nice.
now.
They didn't.
Okay.
They didn't give us that option, but that's okay. We're not going
Yeah.
to.
We're not at that.
Well, thank y'all again. We
You
are
guys
so
are the
thankful for
best.
y'all.
We love being with
we
you
do
too.
love
Yes.
being with
Always.
you too.
Much love.
I'm Eric Stakelbeck, host of the Stackscast podcast. If you want truth and a bold take on what's happening in our world, then listen to the Stackscast now. From thought-provoking conversations about the current state of America, the impact of global events, and issues facing the body of Christ, this podcast brings you today's biggest topics that affect your life. Make sure to follow the Stackscast on your favorite listening platform and join me every Tuesday as we have candid, thought-provoking conversations on issues that matter to you.
Hey, I'm Greer, host of the Unfinished Idea podcast, where listeners and I get to journey together to better understand the neurodiverse world. Together with my husband, we have 2 boys and 2 dogs and raising a child with additional needs. Our day-to-day experience isn't being talked about in everyday life, and I see a gap in those leading people who are neurodivergent. Whether you're a parent, a friend, a teacher, or a neighbor, the neurodivergent world is all around us. So this podcast is for you. I have conversations over a cup of tea or coffee, helping to bring awareness about how neurodivergent people experience the world, as well as families who are raising children with different needs. This podcast will share practical help, tips, and the joys, struggles, and differences in being neurodivergent or raising a child who is. Each week, I will spend 30 minutes talking and interviewing others in the neurodiverse space and giving you the opportunity to learn and grow and feel seen and heard by how we interact with each other and the world. Search for The Unfinished Idea in your favorite podcast app and come learn about the neurodivergent world. I'm looking forward to seeing you there.